Hello, everybody. We are the Geeks and Degenerates. I am Enzo. This is my forever co-host Jom. Today, in preparation for the new Hunger Games, the prequel to this one, we're talking about the first Hunger Games of from 2012. My God, it's been 11 years.
What?
I just realized I was like, wait a minute, huh?
I couldn't. Okay.
I-
So it's not that long ago.
No, it came out the same time as the first Avengers movie. I just realized.
Son of a bitch. Because it was like, to me, it's still one of the new teen drama movies that you would watch.
Right?
Like, your sister would like it, kind
Yeah.
of deal.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of teenagehood, did you have any interest in watching this one?
Yes. Unlike something like Twilight, this one was kind of like a cool concept because it was like this, how would you say, like dystopian future where everybody is like separated by districts, and you have the rich controlling everything. And because of their whole, I did read the book a bit, because of their whole revolt, they were like, hey, we're gonna punish you by putting you into a game, so you have to choose like two people to go into this game, and it's a life and death game.
And you
I was
also
like,
have to kill
oh,
your,
man.
your teammate
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, no, actually, the original rule was
Oh,
if both of you make it out, it's fine.
Oh,
But
okay.
they kind of had to change up the rules to make it more interesting
okay,
when it was Katniss and Peeta. But
okay.
like, if both of you can make it out of there, you're free and you're rich. You're part of us now.
Okay.
That's their whole shtick, and that was such a cool concept because I came from like watching Battle Royale. It's like this Japanese, thing, and like it was like fun, and then like games kind of adapted to it as well, like PUBG with this whole Battle Royale. They drop you into a map and you still have to kill each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was the opposite end of that coin because I don't know, the circle of friends I had were all like, young adult movie, yuck, love
Yeah.
it, teenagers, yuck. But like growing up eventually and seeing events around the world, especially in the 2010s, I was like, I don't know. Every time I revisit this movie, it kind of speaks louder and louder, which is kind of not a good sign, and it's pretty terrifying.
There's no dystopian part here where like, okay, it's a bit dystopian, but there's no us killing each other to be part of those like 1% yet. So
Not in our lifetime, and hopefully never in the future generation lifetime.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hopefully not. But yeah, every time I revisited this one, I was like, this kind of speaks more and more to relevant stuff, and I appreciate it. Like something like Wood Andor speaks to like relevant stuff. So I'm like, huh, it grows on me. And like, we're not doing the sequel yet, but the sequel's pretty sweet to this.
yeah,
But like for the first Hunger Games, I had no idea. I think a cousin or my sister told me that the internet kind of reacted to the casting the same way people reacted to Ben Affleck being Batman, where they're like, I don't see Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss.
yeah, like because she was supposed to be like smaller, scrawnier.
Yeah,
Here she's like well built.
I think the other choices the studio had were either Haley Steinfeld or Shailene Woodley, which is ironic because Shailene Woodley's in, what do you call that?
Divergent.
Divergent. Thank you.
No, you're not wrong. The
And then,
Insurgent. Look, they had really great soundtracks. That's all I gotta say. M83.
so if we did Divergent back to back with this one, you might be like, I thought you just talked about this. To be honest.
Yeah. yeah.
Same with Maze Runner 2, because they're dropped into a world where they wait a minute.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I want to say, the Hunger Games was like, wow, that new concept of teen movies, and it kind of just went downhill from there because everybody tried copying it, and I was like, okay,
Yeah. But I read that the world that Susan Collins, who's the author of the book, made is pretty interesting, where the world is radiated by atomic bombs, and they all have to live on higher ground because sea level has consumed most of America. So they live in like the Appalachians, and like the capital is in the Rocky Mountains now because they all live above sea level. And now, of course, as you mentioned, they all have to compete in this thing where they all have to kill each other. So I'm like, that is the definition of dystopia, and they choose. You don't volunteer; you're forced to participate, which happens to Primrose, who is, yeah, I think it's Primrose, who is Katniss's sister. And
Yeah, and then she volunteers in her stead. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
it does get dark. Here's the thing. I would say I like the first Hunger Games, or like I just like Hunger Games in general, because it didn't lean towards teen romance yet. Like the teen romance shit where it kind of overshadowed the major plot
yeah,
when it came to other movies. Here, it was just like it was there, but you know what the real plot was like
yeah,
survive the game, where they're trying to look good, they're trying to get sponsors. Like she gets to the training ground, she's like training. You see other people how they would train, but bit by bit you kind of like look around and you're like, these people aren't gonna be here like any longer.
any longer.
Yeah.
And you find out that her and Peeta have history. Well, she already has history with Liam Hemsworth. And
Yeah.
you find out kind of like she's a good shot from him, but like you find out that Peeta and her have history because he's been watching her every day since they were in school. And I'm like,
Gives her bread, like
Yeah.
stale bread.
yeah, like, cool, sure, Peeta, whatever.
You know?
Yeah, I think as like a teen, that's my first exposure to Woody Harrelson, because he's a pretty cool character. I was like, oh, I
Really,
wanna...
it wasn't Zombieland?
I think that was my first start, but like cognitively, I remember him from this one more.
Okay.
I don't know, I didn't recognize him from Zombieland because I'm like, but he's a Texan there. Why does he have? I couldn't put two and two together back then.
Okay.
It's a very, it is a typical character, but I don't know, Woody Harrelson plays him pretty well. Like this drunk, bitter survivor of the previous Hunger Games, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay. You're also introduced to Elizabeth Banks and Stanley Tucci, and eventually Toby Jones, who's quiet for most of the movie. I was like, that's Armin Zola. It's not saying much now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have to impress people just by their entrance alone, where she and Peeta have this thing where they're on fire, but they're protected by their suits, and you're like, oh, so it's literally like modern gladiators for the sci-fi
Yeah.
dystopia. And
Okay, I like that. That was a whole factor, right? Like, you have to impress people for you to get sponsors, for them to aid you while you do this shit.
yeah,
You know? It's like F1, but if F1 was like Death Race.
and then you also get introduced to the big bad of this whole saga, which is President Snow, played by Donald Sutherland, and Seneca, played by Wes Bentley. And you're like, just, I don't know, something as a teen, I was quite intimidated by President Snow. Maybe it's the fact that he's like, I don't have to hide my face. I know you know I'm in control and I could kill you whenever I want to. I'm just like, Jesus. It's not like the Emperor, who's shrouded in mystery. It's just public figure who's like, I can kill you whenever I want. I can kill you right now if I wanted to. And you're like, oh, they're so powerless.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing, because, like, the Emperor, he had to hide his face because, you know, like, the world is revolting against him.
Yeah.
Or, like, the universe is revolting against him. Here, everybody's playing by the book, and we'd be like, oh, this is normal. Which
Yeah.
is the scary part, because, like, oh, yeah, teens killing each other, that's just, like, a yearly thing.
Yeah. It's a norm. You're like, Jesus. You also
Yeah.
see pretty familiar faces, like future and past stars you see. I think Clove is portrayed by Isabel Furman, who is Orphan in the movie Orphan. You
Yeah.
also see Jack Quaid, Huey from The Boys. It's like, he
What?
he kills Rue. He's the guy with a spear.
I
Yeah,
did not notice.
yeah.
Or you watched it, I was like, oh, shit, yeah! I was like, no, I was like, he looks familiar.
Uh, and they all have their strengths. Like Kato obviously is like the brute of that group,
Yeah.
but again, Jack Quaid is good with spears. Clove is good with throwing knives. Katniss is good with the bow and arrow, and Pita is good with surrounding himself with the environment, which is a pretty useful skill. But like,
Fucking bullshit. But like, all right. He's like, oh, I decorate cakes. I'm like, I need cake decorating skills, but
sure. Yeah, me too. I was like, I don't think you get that from decorating cake. What kind of cakes do you make, boy?
it's like it would have made more sense. If it was like, I make dioramas.
Right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I was like, really, you want to make a cake look like a rock or a bark of tree?
Right.
I'm like, okay.
I think he explained it like no, the cakes have to be highly detailed. Like that doesn't answer my question. I don't.
like, how much do you commission in this poor environment that you're in?
Right. But yeah, Katniss is obviously the unlikable one at first, but she's very skilled. Like she has to impress the sponsors, and at first she does impressive shots, but they're like, I've seen that before. And then she shoots at them through the pig's apple, and they're like, how dare she? 11. She gets 11 points.
Yeah, like, oh, she got character.
Yeah, we like that. And like she gets an interview with Stanley Tucci, and Haymitch is like, you have to be likable. Just have to be likable. I'm begging you, don't be your usual self. You have to be a presenter for this TV host, and you have to be likable. And she does her job well, but Peter tells his truth of like, I used to like Katniss, I used to love her, I still do. And they're like, oh, a love team. We're more invested.
Yeah. Oh, sponsors.
Yeah.
She's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Katniss like, you son of a bitch. How could you? And then Haymitch.
No, like, it's the equivalent of like, what's the worst thing that she could say besides no?
Like, good job, Peter, you fucking creep. Oh, I forgot. Lenny Kravitz is like the designer of the.
Right. Yeah. I love his music.
Same here. But yeah, everything is building up nicely. Honestly, like I watched this for this video. I watched this like during lockdown of all times. I was like, this is pretty good, well paced, especially like leading up to the titular games itself. I do like the tension of her just going to the jet to be flown to this place, and she's just like utterly terrified of like shit that's really happening.
No, but like, I get it though. You get that feeling because they're like in a tube, right?
Yeah.
And they get shot. They get like moved up, and like the tension of like, once I get into this environment, it's all like, all of us are gonna die.
Yeah.
You know, one of us is gonna die. I mean, and that's the shit I feel every time I played PUBG for the first time. I was like, I'm like shaking. I'm like kind of nervous.
Yeah.
Of course, you get used to it, but like first time playing, I'm like, oh god, will I make it? And what more was like, oh shit, they're actually gonna kill each other, and you have to get to the cornucopia, get the equipment. Like you start out with nothing, just like in PUBG.
Yeah.
And you just have to like run, get as much as you can, and book it.
Candace is like, do I need a bow right now? Not really, bye. And while the rest are just killing each other, they also form factions. They're like, that's nightmare fuel. Shit. What do I do now?
But also, it's gonna be a little bit short-lived, but alright.
I think my friend was like, why don't they just give guns? I was like, because guns are too quick for these fuckers.
Like, have you seen PUBG? It only lasts like, what, 40 minutes?
Yeah. It's like, what part of this is for entertainment don't you get? Where's the fun if someone just headshots all of them with a sniper? It's no fun.
And so you're kind of showing your dystopian 1% future self.
Anyway, it's a very interesting game where if you go too far, they're like, alright, set fire to the woods and kill her if she keeps going. You're like, that's not fair. Fuck.
It's so cool though. It's so cool. Like it's the same concept with like Cabin in the Woods where they just control the environment.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to force to succumb to the environment because like you can't do anything. And like you get the whole like the majority of the teams started putting landmines all around the cornucopia. I was like, what the fuck? Where'd they get landmines from?
Right. They also have the the wasps, but that are like 10 times more horrible than average wasps, and you're like,
Hmm.
you're like, that's not fair, but pretty cool.
Oh yeah, which one of them died from it?
Yeah,
Like I remember seeing just a kid just all swollen up. I'm like, oh god.
yeah. And you also see the effects on Katniss, and you're like, oh,
And that was just from one sting.
yeah, like I'm invested. Please don't die. All right. Before that, she had to get gel for her burn because it was a pretty bad burn. I was like, please don't die. Please don't make it to the end and die from this fucking infection. That'd be pretty sad.
Yeah.
Which can happen. They said like most combatants die from like the environment. I was like, that's yeah, that's fucked up. That makes sense though. But she is saved by Rue and they form this bond. Like there's enough time for you to be attached to Rue. So when Huey from The Boys dispatches her, you're like, you fucking. I won't say it on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
Butcher would be
But
disappointed
yeah,
in you.
like for me as a kid, I was like, Rue was like one of the, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like anyone can die in this movie because you would think that she would take care of her. They would both make it out of the movie. They don't.
No.
And then like the partner of Rue, like this big dude, just like like body slams.
Orphan.
Yeah, I was like, oh. And he was like, that's for Rue. And then later on, you just find out that he gets mauled by some dog.
Yeah, oh god. That was an intense scene when he kills Isabel Furman of like, say her name, bang! Just cracks her skull. I was like,
I was like, oh wait.
she didn't even have a chest, she doesn't have her throwing knives. Her ability is scary though. It's like, I don't need a bow and arrow, I just need a knife. And I got you. It's like, Jesus.
I love that shit. And then you also get that guy. Who is he from? He was like that Race to Witch Mountain guy.
Yeah, Kato, the main guy.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, the main bad guy.
Yeah. Even it's kind of gross sometimes because you see the sword wound Peeta gets when he's hiding. You're like, oh god, Jesus Christ, how deep did he cut in you? Pretty deep apparently. All this time, President Snow's like, you know what? I kind of don't like Katniss Everdeen, and Seneca's like, don't you like an underdog story? He's like, no. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, which we will kind of get a little bit of a backstory when it comes to President Snow, because the movie's about this character that becomes partners with President Snow.
Yeah. So we'll
when
see.
It was the first Hunger Games.
Yeah. Oh man, I am looking forward to that movie actually, very much so. And hopefully we get to do a video on that because it's a very. I want to see how this thing starts.
Yeah.
Going back to Rue's death though, the scene when her district riots, like as a teen, it didn't really click on me of like, oh god, this is kind of too realistic at this point. Like as an adult now, I was like, I thought this was science fiction, not a reflection of our world today. Shit, like when the troops come in, I was like, I am scared. Oh no, oh my, I don't like that imagery.
Didn't they destroy like what was it again? District 13 or something?
Yeah, like they come in with the fire hoses too. I was like, that is too real. Jesus Christ. And it greatly affects Katniss too, because she's like, I, how could they kill someone so innocent? And you're like, yeah, that is fucked up.
Yeah, that is the world.
Yeah. But like after she gets reunited with Peeta, you get that build of like teenage romance when he's like, I always liked you, I fought you in school, I am dying from this hallucination. You're like, oh okay, sure, shit, what now?
Yeah.
And Katniss has to go on her own, and that's we got the scene of the big guy killing Orphan. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ, with his fucking bare hand, he crushed her. Why? I mean, well deserved, but Jesus Christ.
I'm not gonna say I love that, but it made me giggle when she was like, "Wait!" It's like, I mean, it was your friends who killed her, or who killed his like friend. So, I guess well deserved.
If she only wasn't like we killed her, she should be like my partner killed her. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah,
Katniss.
but he did though.
Yeah. So there's
because like Katniss like shot him in the chest as soon as like they found out.
Yeah, she's like, "Oi." Again, I won't say the word, but she did shoot him.
Yeah.
But yeah, her and Peeta make it through the last night after big guy gets mauled by dogs, some genetically enhanced dogs that even though you shoot them in the face with an arrow, that does nothing. You're like that again. You're like that's not fair. Jesus Christ, why?
Yeah.
And then they have this last fight with Kato on top of the cornucopia. Or sorry, before that, Peeta gets some berries, and Katniss is like, "Did Peeta just accidentally off himself? Fuck."
Yeah, because there's that one. Oh wait, no, it's actually kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
Now that I think about it, because there's this redhead girl who's like doing all the plants and shit.
yeah,
Like she's memorizing all the poisonous plants, all the plants that you can eat and cannot eat. But she died through the berries.
Yeah.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
oh
And
god.
She just offed herself because she couldn't take it. I was like, that was a little detail that they didn't explain, but you kind of get it because if you look back, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, she was like, "I'm not gonna make it out of here anyway. I rather go out as painful as I can." You're like,
Yeah.
that makes sense in this world.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're like, did Peter just accidentally off himself? Because you see the pile of berries on his jacket. You're like, well, shit, fuck. Hey, but you don't know at the time how bad they are until Katniss says reaction to them. You're like, oh, I guess they're poisonous. Shit.
Yeah.
But they keep some of them just in case for the arrows. But they do kill Kato, and Kato says some sad shit of like, all I know how to do is kill. I'm a trained killer, sir. Like, oh, this boy has no life aside from training for the Hunger Games and hopefully making out. But he does fall back, and the dogs
He gets ripped apart by the dogs.
Yeah, and then Candace is like, yeah, no, I'm mercy kill. And you're like,
Yeah.
and then Seneca's like, by the way, the rule we said of 2 winners, we're taking that back. 1 winner.
Yeah.
So both of you have to kill yourself, or yeah, kill each other. And
No, they're like, oh, you guys have to kill one of like one has to kill us.
Yeah.
And they're like, how about no? We both gonna die.
And he's like, wait, you're the winners. Congratulations. I'm a dead man.
Yeah. Also, like a little like detail when it comes to the games, like if somebody dies, you hear a gunshot or like
Yeah.
a cannon
Cannon.
shot,
Yeah.
and I'm like, that's just horrible. And then like at night, when you're like resting and you're like, okay, I'm out of the danger for now.
Yeah.
They show you a screen of how many people have died. I'm like,
Shit.
what the fuck?
You see
It's
how
like seeing the leaderboard in F1, but like they're never coming back.
oh wow, I have 10 points. The rest are dead. Oh my god.
God damn. Driver of the day, but I'm the only driver left.
I won the what do you call the championship? The drivers' championship and
The Grand Prix.
yeah. Like wow, I won. I feel empty. Fuck. Do you see how excited the technicians are to do a cannon shot? You're like, all right, one of them died. You're like, yeah, y'all are fucked up. You're too excited for this shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the games, Haymitch is like, more trouble is coming your way. This is a serious thing. You defied President Snow. Again, you don't do that. Otherwise, his wrath will come upon all of us, and God help us all. And you do see the ramifications in the second and like going forward. But Peter's like, so what do we do now? And Candace is like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you do now? What about us? What us? Oh, okay. Fuck. Okay. I get how it is.
Yeah. Again, that's why I kind of liked it. They kind of they didn't lean too much on like, oh, they might actually like each other. No, this is for survival.
Yeah.
We're putting on a show for survival.
Yeah, and then President Snow has Seneca off himself the berries. He just locks him in a room and he's like, your only offering is to eat these. You're like, that's fucked up. Fuck.
Yeah.
And then Snow is just watching Katniss and Peeta have their celebration, and he's like, alright, you guys got your victory today. Y'all are gonna pay tomorrow. And that's where the movie ends, and you're like, I'm invested. Totally invested now.
It's kind of fucked up because like they're like, oh, we're volunteering you again for the next Hunger Games. And we're like, no, I thought it was supposed to be like you do it once and then we're kind of set for life.
Oh yeah, the next one is like the All-Star Battle Royale.
Yeah. Like, the best of the best.
Oh man.
Like esports Hunger Games.
It's like, get this chicken dinner, bitch. Like, oh, that's not fair.
I love that. The person was just like, we'll get the best, the winners of the past games. Like even some old person
Yeah,
won it like a long time ago.
And it's like, why? Ah, fuck this world.
Yeah.
But what would you rate the first Hunger Games?
I would rate the first Hunger Games. I'm giving it like a 7 out of 10. Like
Okay.
it's a good movie. It's a good like teen movie, in my opinion, because they didn't lean into the regular tropes. They were kind of like hinting at it, but they didn't lean on the whole, oh, they're a thing yet.
Yeah.
For sure, her and Peeta became a thing, but um, like they didn't focus on it. They focused on the dystopian world. They focused on the game, the actual theme, which
Yeah.
a lot of movies tend to forget. Is that like, oh, we're making a teen movie with like this whole apocalyptic thing, and they just lean a little too far forward, lean too much into the whole romance side
Okay.
instead of like the actual plot of like, let's get the fuck out of here
Okay.
or let's survive, which is why I appreciate Hunger Games, the first Hunger Games, a little bit
Yeah.
compared to the other movies. It was good. There was no big fight scenes. It felt real.
Yeah.
Like it felt like a couple of kids who don't know how to fight yet, trying to survive. And like same with the girl with the berries, that those were kind of like little nods to like, oh yeah, like what she was doing in the training area. She knew what she was doing in the actual game, where she just kind of like, nope, peace, I ain't doing this shit.
Oh man.
That was like very clever writing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Horrible, but it was clever.
Yeah, subtle of like, because you're at first you're like, did she accidentally eat these? No, she knows her plants. Then
Yeah. Like at first, because when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, you idiot! I thought you studied for this shit."
Yeah.
And then you find out, it's like, "Oh no, she did study for this shit."
Yeah, and I guess that was one of her goals, which is
Yeah.
horrible, but at the same time you're like, that makes sense. So like, I'm
Yeah.
not here by my choice anyway.
Yeah. And, like it's the subtle things that they do in this movie that was really good.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the world. I fell in love with this like dystopian future
Yeah.
that I really hope that doesn't happen to us. But yeah, the movie's great. It ended great, and also somewhat bittersweet because they're like, we survived, sure, but that guy's out to get us now, and he's the president.
Yeah, I'll also give this a 7. It's a pretty good start. It's a pretty, if you like dystopian sci-fi movies, this is a pretty good entry into that. And again, it gets too real at times too, with like, especially with the riots. Because again, I watched this back in 2020 before this video, so the Black Lives Matter riots are happening in America. So watching this and watching the news, I was like, I am in existential crisis. It's too real. Good on them for portraying the darker side of dystopia, but Jesus Christ, does it age pretty well.
Yeah,
Good
not
main,
in a good way.
not in a good way. Just sort of like art life does reflect art and vice versa. I don't like that. I appreciate it for being honest, but doesn't mean I have to like it or be comfortable with
Yep,
it, which is the point. But yeah, good main lead, very interesting story. Again, I do like the fact that it's not a teen romance. It is a dystopia where you are fighting for your life, and you are basically powerless against President Snow, which I do like the theme of. But yeah, it's a very interesting entry to the young adult movies because I don't think there's any there is Divergent, but that's a story for another day. Because it's literally the same thing. I would
Please don't
maybe,
make me watch it. Please don't make me watch
if we have nothing to do, maybe I don't know.
it. Fuck you.
Maybe we can do that and Maze Runner, so people will be like, you're talking about the same movies twice. Why?
Oh, for sure they're gonna be short.
Yeah. So yeah, 7 out of 10s. Again, a pretty good entry to the sci-fi dystopia genre. What are your guys' favorite entries in that genre, or what's your favorite Hunger Games movies out of the 4 of these? Sorry, 5, including the new movie, if you guys get to see it in advance, or you want to come back here and comment if it's a pretty good watch. But yeah, if you like our videos, please give them a like, subscribe, and ding the bell icon to get notified of when we upload next. We're also on Spotify and TikTok to see our best and funniest moments and our reactions to trailers and Spotify tiers on the go. Individually, I have a solo TikTok called Zoe Does Voices. I do a lot of voices. I've been working on them for years, actually. But where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at JomJM _ on Instagram and Instagram.
And on the next one, I'm going to warn you guys, the next lineup will be pretty heavy because we'll be doing one of the most important movies of our time, which we pre-recorded weeks ago. Yeah. You're kind of... Anyway, we'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.